I still remember the smell of that office. Polished wood. Fresh coffee. The low hum of computers working like a heartbeat in the background. That place wasn't just an office. It was my dream. I built it from nothing, late nights, early mornings, skipped meals, broken sleep. Every chair, every desk, every single wall had my sweat in it. And yet, that morning, I stood outside the glass door like a stranger. Because my own mother had just pushed me out of it. Not figuratively. Not emotionally. But physically, professionally, completely. And what hurt the most wasn't the loss. It was the smile on her face when she did it. Have you ever been betrayed by someone who raised you? Someone you trusted without question? I thought blood meant loyalty. I was wrong. Very wrong. 5 years earlier, I had nothing, an idea, no money. No big connections, just a laptop, stubborn hope, and a promise to myself that I would never depend on anyone again. But life has a funny way of testing your promises. In the beginning, I worked from my bedroom, then from a shared space, then, finally from a small rented office. That was the first place my mother visited. She walked in, looked around, touched the desks, and smiled proudly. "This is impressive," she said. "I always knew you would do something big." Those words meant everything to me. So when she offered help, advice, contacts, experience, I didn't hesitate. She was my mother. Why would I doubt her? That was my first mistake. At first it felt like a blessing. She helped with meetings. She talked confidently to clients. People trusted her instantly. She had that warm, powerful presence. Soon, she suggested something else. "You're growing fast," she said. "You need structure. You need leadership support." Leadership support. That phrase should have scared me. Instead, I nodded. I gave her a title. Then a bigger role. Then, slowly, access to things I should have protected. Accounts, documents, decision-making power. Every time a small doubt rose in my chest, I pushed it down. She's my mother, I told myself. She would never hurt me. Behind my back, the story was changing. Staff began coming to her for approvals. Clients began calling her first. My name started fading quietly. I didn't see it. Or maybe I didn't want to. That morning started like any other. I walked into the office, coffee in hand, already planning the day in my head. But something felt off. Conversations stopped when I walked past. Eyes avoided mine. My assistant didn't greet me. Then I saw it. My name gone from the door. Replaced. I laughed nervously at first. Must be a mistake, I thought. Then my mother walked out of my office. My chair behind her, my desk, my space. She looked at me calmly and said, "We need to talk." Those words still echo in my ears. Because in that moment, I felt like a guest in my own life. That night I didn't sleep. Anger, shock, disbelief. I replayed every moment, every warning sign I ignored. But beneath the pain, something else was growing. Not rage, not revenge, but clarity. Because when someone takes everything from you, you finally see the truth. And the truth was simple. They thought I was finished. They thought I was weak. They thought I had nothing left. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The days after I was pushed out felt unreal. No calls. No apologies. No explanation beyond that cold meeting. People I worked with for years suddenly acted like I didn't exist. Messages went unread. Doors stayed closed. But silence has a strange power. It gives you time to think. And the more I thought, the more pieces began to connect. Late nights when decisions were made without me. Emails I was quietly removed from. Documents that suddenly changed tone. This wasn't sudden. This was planned. For months, maybe longer. And the most painful realization hit me harder. My mother didn't just take my office. She took credit for my work. She took control of my vision. She took my identity. And she did it calmly, like she believed she deserved it. That night, I stopped feeling sorry for myself. Because I finally understood something important. This wasn't emotional. This was strategic. So if they played smart, so would I. Instead of reacting, I disappeared. No angry posts, no legal threats, no dramatic confrontations that surprised them. They expected me to fight loudly. I chose silence instead. From the outside, it looked like I had accepted defeat. But quietly, I was watching everything. I spoke to former clients, old partners, suppliers who trusted me, not the company logo. And something interesting happened. They talked. They told me how confused things felt inside the office. How decisions were delayed. How my mother changed processes she didn't fully understand. The company was still standing. But cracks were forming. And I realized something important. They took my seat. But they couldn't replace my mind. One evening, while going through my old backups, I found something. Folders I hadn't opened in years. Original contracts, client agreements, intellectual records, all created under my name. Back then, I trusted people too much. I never imagined I'd need protection from my own family. But business doesn't care about blood. Paper matters, signatures matter, ownership matters. And legally, the foundation was still mine. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Not out of happiness, but because I finally saw the road ahead. I didn't want to destroy them. I wanted to expose the truth. I reached out quietly. Not to the company, to the clients. One by one, I didn't complain, I didn't accuse, I simply said, I've started something new. Something better, built on honesty, built on respect. I showed them my vision and they listened. Some hesitated. Some were loyal to the old brand. But many of them remembered one thing clearly. I was the one who built trust. I was the one who solved problems at midnight. I was the one who cared. Slowly, deals began shifting. Not loudly, not publicly, just naturally. And inside that big office, panic quietly entered the room. My mother noticed first. Numbers didn't add up, meetings ended without results, key clients delayed decisions. She demanded explanations. Managers blamed systems, systems blamed people. People blamed confusion, something was missing. Me, and the irony. They finally realized my value only after removing me. But by then, I was no longer interested in going back. I was building something new. Stronger, cleaner, fully mine. Then, one evening, my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. I stared at it for a long time. So many emotions rushed back. Anger, sadness, old love. I answered sounded different. Not confident. Not commanding. Careful. We need to talk, she said. This time, she was asking, and for the first time since that office door closed, I knew something powerful. The balance had shifted. We met in a quiet cafe. Neutral ground, no office, no authority. Just two people sitting across from each other. For the first time in my life, my mother looked unsure. She stirred her coffee slowly, avoiding my eyes. I didn't expect this to happen, she said. That sentence stayed in the air. Because what she really meant was, she didn't expect me to survive. I didn't interrupt. I let silence do its work. Finally, she looked up. The company isn't doing well, she admitted. We're losing momentum. Clients are asking for you. There it was. Not regret, not apology. Need. She wanted me back. Not as a son, as a solution. She leaned forward. If you come back, she said, we can fix this. Together. Together. That word sounded strange now. I smiled, not sarcastically, not proudly. And I asked her one simple question. Why didn't you say that before you pushed me out? She froze. No answer came. Because there wasn't one that didn't expose the truth. She didn't push me out because I was weak. She pushed me out because she wanted control. And control, once tasted, is hard to give up. As she spoke, my mind drifted back. To childhood. To the years I tried to impress her. To every moment I chased approval. Even when I built the company, part of me wanted her to be proud. That part of me was gone now. I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. And clarity is dangerous, because it can't be manipulated. I won't come back, I said softly. Her eyes widened. I'm not finished. I took out a folder. Not aggressively, not dramatically, just placed it between us. Documents, records, original ownership proofs. I watched her expression change with each page. This wasn't emotion. This was reality. I'm not here to fight you, I continued. I'm here to end this properly. Her voice shook slightly. What do you want? That question. That was the moment everything flipped. I want my name cleared, I said. I want my vision back. No shouting, no threats, just facts. I've already moved on, I added. But the truth will come out. With or without agreement. She finally understood. This wasn't a negotiation from weakness. This was mercy. Because legally and professionally. I held the final card. And she knew it. The cafe felt quiet. People laughed around us. Life went on. But at that table, years of control were slipping away. She exhaled deeply. "You've changed," she said. I nodded. "Yes," I replied. "I had to. Because staying the same almost destroyed me." I gave her two options. One private, one public. One that protected the company's image. And one that exposed everything. I didn't rush her. I stood up to leave. Because real power doesn't wait for approval. As I walked away, she finally spoke. "Give me time." I paused. "You have until morning," I said calmly. And for the first time, she was the one left behind. I gave her two options. One private, one public. One that protected the company's image, and one that exposed everything. I didn't rush her. I stood up to leave. Because real power doesn't wait for approval. As I walked away, she finally spoke. "Give me time." I paused. "You have until morning," I said calmly. And for the first time, she was the one left behind. At 6:12 a.m. my phone buzzed. A message. Not long, muff emotional, just one sentence. "We agree. Let's talk." I stared at the screen. This time, there was no satisfaction. Only confirmation. They finally understood what they had pushed away. I didn't rush. I didn't dress like someone begging for a second chance. I walked in calm, clean, confident. When I entered the building, people froze. Whispers followed me down the hall. Some avoided eye contact. Some looked relieved. When I reached the office door, it was open. My name was back on it. But something had changed. I wasn't returning as before. I was there to close a chapter. Everyone was present, executives, managers, my mother. She didn't sit at the head of the table this time. She watched quietly as the truth was discussed. Ownership clarified, roles corrected, narratives rewritten. No drama, just reality, spoken clearly. The company wasn't taken from me. It was returned. But I surprised them. "I won't be staying," I said. Gasps filled the room. My mother looked up sharply. "But this is yours," she said. I nodded. "It was," I replied. "And that's exactly why I'm letting it go." You could feel confusion. People expect revenge to look loud. I chose something stronger. Freedom. I transferred control legally, properly, cleanly. But not without protection. My legacy was secured, my name restored, my future untied. After everyone left, she stopped me. Her voice cracked. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. I believed her. And still, I answered honestly. "But you did." That was the moment. Not the legal loss, not the business shift, but the realization that she lost her son's trust. And some losses can't be reversed. Months passed. My new company grew faster than the old one ever did. Why? Because it was built on lessons learned the hard way. Clear boundaries, no emotional control, no shared power without respect. Clients followed. People respect those who survive betrayal without becoming bitter. I wasn't fueled by anger anymore. I was guided by wisdom. One afternoon, I received a message. A referral. From my mother. She recommended my company to a client. That message said more than any apology ever could. She finally accepted who I was. Just a little too late. If you're listening to this, remember one thing. Sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones closest to you. Not because they hate you, but because they want control. Never confuse love with loyalty. Never confuse blood with trust. And never let anyone, even family, push you out of your own life. Because when you stand back up, you don't need revenge. Justice finds its way on its own. People think the hardest moment is betrayal. It's not. The hardest moment comes after you win. When the noise fades. When the calls slow down. When there's no enemy left to fight. That's when the silence returns. I had my name back, my confidence back, my future back. Yet sometimes late at night, I'd sit alone and wonder. Was it worth losing my own mother in the process? Because victory doesn't always feel loud. Sometimes it feels lonely. We didn't talk much after everything settled. Not because we hated each other, but because too many words were never spoken, and too many were spoken too late. Every conversation felt careful, like walking on cracked glass. She asked about work sometimes, I answered politely. But the closeness? That never returned. Trust, once broken, doesn't scream when it leaves. It walks away quietly. Months later, former employees reached out. People who stayed silent when I was pushed out. One by one, they apologized. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. "I thought you were done?" I understood them. Fear turns good people into quiet ones. I forgave them, not out of kindness but out of maturity. Because bitterness keeps you chained to the very place you escaped. My new company was different. Not bigger, not flashier, but honest. Every role was clear, every decision transparent. I wrote rules for myself, rules born from pain. No mixing love with control. No power without accountability. No silence when something feels wrong. This business wasn't just income, it was closure. I'd still hear news about the old company. It survived. But it was never the same. Leadership changed often. Energy felt lost. Some things can't be rebuilt once the foundation is cracked. Not because of money, but because of how it was taken. Whenever I tell this story, people ask the same thing: do you hate her? And the answer surprises them. No, hate requires energy. And I learned something powerful. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's acceptance. I accepted that my mother was human, flawed, driven, afraid of losing relevance. Understanding doesn't excuse betrayal, but it helps you stop carrying it. One evening I cleaned out old files. Photos, early plans, handwritten notes from the beginning. There was one picture of us, standing in that first office. Both smiling. I stared at it for a long time. Then I closed the folder. Not angrily, peacefully. That was the moment I truly moved on. Power isn't shouting. Power isn't revenge. Power is knowing you could destroy someone and choosing not to. Because you already won. They pushed me out of my own office. But in doing so, they pushed me into becoming someone they could never control again. If you're listening to this story right now, maybe you're being betrayed quietly. Maybe by a friend, a partner, or even family. Let me tell you something important. You don't need to scream, you don't need to rush. Watch, learn, prepare, because when the truth finally speaks, it doesn't shout, it stands firm. And when you reclaim what's yours, your dignity, your future, your self-respect, you'll realize something beautiful. They didn't break you, they revealed you. Success looks loud from the outside. People see growth, stability, confidence. But they don't see the quiet moments. The moments where you sit alone after a long day and realize there's no one left to call who truly understands where you came from. I had built something strong again. But the cost of that strength was learning how to stand without emotional support. Betrayal doesn't just remove people. It removes innocence. What surprised me most wasn't anger. It was guilt. Guilt for moving on. Guilt for doing better. Guilt for not needing her anymore. Sometimes I wondered if my success reminded her of what she lost. And that thought used to haunt me. Until I understood something important. I was not responsible for managing someone else's regret. Almost a year later, she invited me over. Just dinner. No business, no tension. Or so she said. We talked about small things, weather, news, health. Then she looked at me and said, I thought I was protecting you and the company. Her voice trembled. But I was protecting myself. That was the closest thing to a real apology I would ever receive. And strangely, that was enough. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean trusting again. It means releasing control over the past. I forgave her not for her peace, but for mine. Because holding on to pain only gives it permission to stay. And I was done letting it live in me rent-free. We stayed in touch after that, but with lines that never blurred again. No shared decisions, no shared authority, no emotional leverage. Love can exist without access. And boundaries don't destroy relationships. They save what little remains. One day, a young employee asked me, how did you stay calm when everything was taken from you? I paused, then answered honestly. I didn't stay calm, I stayed patient. Patience is strength. That doesn't need attention. If my story teaches anything, it's this. The worst betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from people who believe you won't fight back. But survival doesn't always look like war. Sometimes it looks like wisdom. Sometimes it looks like walking away with your dignity intact. If you're listening till now, you're not weak for trusting. You're not foolish for believing in family. But remember this. Trust must be earned even by those who raised us. And when life pushes you out of your own space, don't rush to return. Build something so strong that they one day ask to enter your world instead. Years have passed since that day. The day I stood outside my own office. With nothing but confusion and heartbreak. Time has a way of softening memories. Not erasing them, but reshaping how they sit inside us. When I look back now, I no longer see myself as the victim. I see a version of me, who was being prepared for something bigger. I have an office now. Different city, different walls, different energy. But the feeling, stronger. This one doesn't belong to fear or approval, it belongs to earned confidence. Every person inside knows their role. Every decision is documented. Every voice is respected. Nothing here can be taken quietly. Because everything here was built with open eyes. We don't talk about the past anymore. Not because it's forbidden, but because its lesson has already been learned. She taught me something she never intended to teach. That leadership without humility eventually collapses. That control feels powerful. Until it's all you have left. I don't resent her for that lesson. Some teachers don't know they're teaching. People often misunderstand legacy. They think it's money, buildings, titles. It's not. Legacy is what you leave inside people. The confidence to walk away, the courage to rebuild, the wisdom to choose peace over pride. That's what this journey gave me. I'd say this. Don't rush to prove yourself. Don't confuse access with love. And never give someone power just because they share your blood. Trust yourself earlier. It would have saved years. But then again, without the betrayal, I may never have grown this strong. Revenge stories usually end loudly. Public apologies, shame, collapse. Mine didn't. Mine ended quietly. With self-respect intact, with truth acknowledged, with boundaries that no one dares cross. And sometimes, that's the most powerful ending of all. If you're still here, this wasn't just my story. It was yours too. Maybe you were pushed out of a job, a relationship, a family space you thought was safe. Let this be your reminder. No one can erase what you built, if you still carry the skill to rebuild. They may close one door, but when you open the next one yourself, no one gets a key unless you hand it to them. My mother pushed me out of my own office. But by doing that, she pushed me into becoming the kind of person no one could ever push around again, and that was the real victory. There was one person who never blocked me. A junior employee, quiet, almost invisible in meetings. Weeks after I was pushed out, she emailed me. Not business, not gossip. Just one line. I wanted you to know I never believed their version. That message mattered more than she'll ever know. Because betrayal tries to rewrite history. And sometimes, all you need is one voice to remind you who you really are. Later, I learned what really happened behind closed doors. Meetings turned tense. Decisions stalled. People hesitated. Not because they missed me emotionally, but because clarity was gone. I was the one who used to connect ideas, calm arguments, finish problems. Leadership noticed something too late. You can remove a person, but if they were the system, everything slows down. Months later, during an industry event, I overheard two executives talking. They mentioned my name. Not with bitterness, not with blame. With respect. He built that place from the ground up, one said. That was it. No revenge could top that moment. Because respect earned quietly lasts longer than fear imposed loudly. I once wrote her a letter, not accusing, not emotional, just honest. I never sent it. Because some words don't need to be heard to be released. Writing it was enough. Healing doesn't always need an audience. People still ask. If you could go back, would you change anything? I used to say yes. Now I say no. Because that pain taught me something success never could. Who I am, when everything is taken away. Revenge doesn't always mean watching someone fall. Sometimes it means watching them realize they underestimated you. And realizing you no longer need their approval. The office I lost was just a place. The confidence I gained, that stayed. They begged me back the next morning. But by then, I had already moved on. And that decision changed my life forever. I didn't tell this story to expose anyone. I told it because too many people sit quietly pain, thinking they're the only ones. They think betrayal means failure. It doesn't. Sometimes it means you outgrew a place that could no longer hold you. There's a moment after betrayal no one warns you about. When the anger fades, when the shock settles, And you're left asking, who am I now without this role? That moment is terrifying. But it's also where freedom begins. Because now you get to choose yourself without permission. Maybe you weren't pushed out of an office. Maybe it was a family business, a partnership, a relationship, or a place where you felt you belonged. Let me say this clearly. Being removed does not mean you were replaceable. It means someone wanted what you carried. Here's the lesson I learned the hard way. Control uses fear, leadership uses trust. Control demands loyalty, leadership earns it. And the moment someone needs to push you down, to stand taller, they've already lost. I wish someone had looked me in the eye and said, you don't have to explain your pain to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. So if you're still explaining yourself to those who hurt you, stop. Your silence will say more than your defense ever could. Success doesn't feel shiny anymore. It feels stable. It feels like peace when you wake up, confidence when you say no, calm when old triggers don't work anymore. That's the kind of success I built. And it lasts. Never give someone power over you, just because they share history with you. Love can exist without access. Respect must exist for trust. And sometimes, the best revenge is becoming unrecognizable to the version of you that once begged to stay. This is where I stopped telling the story. Not because it ended, but because it no longer controls me. And if you've listened this far, maybe it no longer controls you either. Something strange happens after betrayal. People start talking. Some tell your story like a warning. Some tell it like gossip. Some tell it like a lesson they learned late. At first, that bothered me. Then I realized, if people are telling your story, it means you mattered. Silence only follows those who were never important. I heard the rumors that I was difficult, that I was too emotional, that I couldn't handle leadership. Funny thing is, those same words were once used to justify pushing me out. But now, they sounded weak. Because rumors lose power when your results speak louder. Some came quietly. Old partners, former staff, people who chose the safe side back then. They didn't say much. Just, I should have stood up for you. I thanked them. Not because they deserved forgiveness, but because I no longer needed validation. And then there were others. The ones who stayed silent forever. Who avoided eye contact at events. Who pretended nothing happened. That told me everything I needed to know. Not everyone is brave enough to face the truth they benefited from. And that's okay. Closure doesn't require cooperation. One morning, I walked into my office and realized I hadn't thought about them in weeks. No anger, no replaying conversations, no imaginary arguments. That's when I knew I was free. Not because I won, but because I no longer cared who thought they did. I see people differently now. Not suspicious, just observant. I listen to patterns. I notice who speaks only when they gain. I watch who stays consistent when there's nothing to win. Betrayal sharpens your instincts. If you let it, maybe this story came to you on a night you couldn't sleep, or during a moment you felt replaced. Let me be clear. Being pushed out doesn't mean you were finished. It means someone else was afraid. You were just getting started. Here's the part no one admits. They didn't underestimate your talent. They underestimated your resilience, and that mistake always comes with consequences. I promised myself something after all this. I would never build anything that depends on being small. Not relationships, not businesses, not dreams. Because once you know your value, you refuse to fit into places that only want to use you. If you're still healing, take your time. Healing isn't loud, growth isn't urgent. But one day, you'll look back and realize they didn't end your story. They gave it a powerful second chapter.